Now, I actually wanted to inform you all that my opinion on this ayah has changed. Now, what I mentioned in a previous video that was a few years back, I mentioned that I believe that Osiris was Uzair. And that had to do with the name being similar, and I explained the reasoning. Now, what I mentioned in that video, do I still believe it? I do still believe it, but I don't believe this is what the ayah in question is speaking about. Because there's a few considerations that I've taken into account over the years of my study. If we look at the ayah, let's look at the second part of it. It's وَقَالَتِ النَّصَارَى الْمَسِيحُ ابْنُ اللَّهِ. Now, has there been any controversy or any person, any skeptic of the Quran which has questioned this statement? Do the Christians actually say that Al-Masih is the son of Allah? That's a common belief. So there's absolutely no issues with that. No issues. The issue has always been the first part. وَقَالَتِ الْيَهُودُ عُزَيْرٌ ibn Allah. That's always been the issue. Now, Allah says al-Yahud. قالت al-Yahud. That's the generic noun. Jews, in the general sense. So, it has to be a widespread belief. Not a belief that we need to go to this particular narration or, this obscure article that we've read and said, well, there was some Jews possibly in Arabia who, said that Uzair was the son of Allah and so on. No. Allah uses the generic noun, al-Yahud. He didn't say ba'd al-Yahud or min al-Yahud or ta'ifa min Yahud min Yathrib. He said al-Yahud. So it has to be just as common, just as widespread as وَقَالَتِ النَّصَارَى الْمَسِيحُ ibn Allah. So that's what made me think, because Osiris, if you speak to any Jew today, there's probably no Jew on the face of this earth that believes that Osiris is the son of Allah. Now, did they believe that maybe after they were saved from the Pharaoh? Most likely. I mean, they worshipped the golden calf. They were influenced by a Samari. So Fir'aun likely used a Samari, one of their own people, to indoctrinate them with the beliefs of the Egyptians. And it worked on the most part. I mean, they rebelled against Harun alayhi salam and they worshipped the golden calf. And also the story of the Baqarah that they didn't want to slaughter. That has to do also with their belief as well. But this was before the split between al-Yahud and Nasara. The Quran says al-Yahud, قالت اليهود وقالت النصارى. So this saying was after the split of the Jews and the Christians. And there was an influence of one to the other. So the statement قالت اليهود should be a statement that is commonly found, and maybe we'll be able to find it even in their scriptures. And I would say we can find this in the Quran as well. So that's what I want to, inshallah, get to. Another point I want to mention is this name Uzair. Commonly, the common opinion is that it's Ezra, the prophet Ezra, which is a Jewish prophet. Question though is, if you look at the name Uzair, Uzairun, what do you notice? It ends with a tanween. It's an Arabic name. It's not Jewish. It's not non-Arab. If you look at the names of Jewish prophets, they end with one dhamma, not two dhammas. It can't refer to a Jewish prophet. Next thing to consider, Uzair. It's on a specific pattern. Ismu tasghir. Like the word, for example, bunay. That's used in the Quran, bunay. It's a diminutive noun. It denotes something that is small, or it's also used for endearment and to express love of somebody. So like, for example, the name Hussein, the small Hassan. That could also be for endearment as well. Okay. Qusay is another Arabic name. So Uzair is on this pattern. And it comes from the three base letters. Ain, Za, Ra. Azara. So it's on the Ism Tasghir. And as we said, one of the meanings, and the meaning that's used in the Quran, is to show love and endearment to somebody. Now these three base letters, the Ain, Zay, Ra, is used in the Quran to azziruhu, that you may show honor to him, to the Prophet ﷺ. So Uzair, taking the linguistic meaning of Uzair, it would be the beloved, honorable one. Just a rough translation of that. So it's somebody that they loved and that they honored dearly. Okay, so is it speaking about one person? Or is it in the generic sense? Now, here it could indicate an Ism Alam, but it's not used as an Ism Alam here. It's used as a noun, a generic noun. It's the indefinite form. Uzairun, somebody who they honor and respect and love. Now, this practice of calling somebody the son of Allah, have they done this? Yes, they have. Even in their own books, it's mentioned. Nabi, for example, Dāwūd, Nabi Sulaiman are called the sons of Allah in the Bible, in the Old Testament. Even the Quran mentions, and this talks about the progression of this belief, where it says, وَقَالَتِ الْيَهُودُ وَالنَّصَارَى نَحْنُ أَبْنَاءُ اللَّهِ. We are the children of Allah. وَأَحِبَّاؤُهُ, and the most beloved to him. Beloved. So there's the love also, the meaning of love. So in a way, they made themselves also Uzair, in the fact that they called themselves Ibnullah, each other, or their race. Anybody that belongs to their race is now Uzair. And so we see this practice of calling people that they loved and their own selves, as I mentioned, the sons of Allah. And then what happened was the Christians took this belief up. There was actually a progression of this belief, but it was to honor this person to an extent that it would diminish Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you raise human beings up, you diminish Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and what your ideas about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is common. If you see the way that shirk or that idolatry happens, that's what happens with idolatry. When you make the creation into almost like the creator. And you even stop calling on the creator and you call on the creation. It started off with al-Yahud. The Yahud made this practice. It's in their Bible, in their Old Testament. And then the Christians took it up and took it to the next level, where they made Isa alayhi salam divine. Allah says, ذَلِكَ قَوْلُهُمْ بِأَفْوَاهِهِمْ. This is a statement from their mouths. يُضَاهِئُونَ قَوْلَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا مِنْ قَبْلِ. They imitate the same statement made by those who disbelieved previously. This belief was inherited And slowly, it was taken up. This is how bid'ah starts. It's step by step until you get to idolatry, shirk. So this ayah explains pretty much the process, how the divinity of Jesus Christ came about. It's quite remarkable, these two ayat that came. The ayah continues on. Now, next ayah doesn't speak about the Yahud. It speaks about An-Nasara, not Al-Yahud. اتخذوا أحبارهم. Ahbar comes from Hibr, ink. They're scholars. The scholars of the Christians. They took them. وَرُهْبَانَهُمْ, and their monks. They took them. As what? أَرْبَابًا مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ. They took them as lords besides Allah. They followed them. They used them as the source of guidance. They followed them blindly. اتخذوا أحبارهم ورهبانهم أربابا من دون الله والمسيح ابن مريم. Notice here it says المسيح ابن مريم. This is talking about Isa. There's no doubt about that. But the previous ayah, where it says النصارى, قالت النصارى المسيح ابن الله. Didn't say المسيح ابن مريم ابن الله. Why would it mention just al-Masih here?